The afternoon sun rested gently over the city park, and the air felt calm and slow. Families walked along the paths, and children moved between swings and slides with soft laughter. The park looked peaceful like any other normal day. Nothing warned anyone that something terrible was quietly unfolding. Officer Ryan stood near the park entrance holding the leash of his K9 partner Max. Max was a large brown dog with alert eyes and a strong body. He had worked with Ryan for many years, and their bond was built on trust and long hours together. Ryan believed Max understood danger even before it showed itself. Max walked calmly beside him, his nose low to the ground, sensing the world in ways humans could not. Ryan was on routine duty. Nothing serious was expected. The radio on his shoulder stayed silent, and the sounds around him felt normal. Birds moved between trees, and a vendor pushed a small cart near the walkway. Parents sat on benches watching their children run freely. Ryan breathed easily and let his guard relax just a little. Then Max stopped walking. His body went stiff and his ears lifted high. His breathing changed, and the leash pulled slightly forward. Ryan noticed at once. He looked down at Max and then followed the direction of his gaze toward the playground. A little boy sat alone on a bench near the swings. He looked small and thin, wearing a faded blue shirt and dark shorts. His feet did not reach the ground, and his hands rested quietly in his lap. He did not play, he did not speak, he simply sat still, staring ahead. Max let out a low sound from deep in his chest. It was not anger, it was not excitement, it was something else, something uneasy. Ryan frowned slightly. Max was trained around children. He never reacted like this without reason. Ryan tightened his grip on the leash and spoke calmly to keep control. "Easy, Max." Max did not settle. His body leaned forward, and the leash grew tighter. His eyes stayed fixed on the boy, and his tail stood firm. Ryan felt a strange tension in his chest. He followed Max a few steps closer, keeping his voice steady. "What do you see, buddy?" Suddenly Max barked loud and sharp. The sound echoed across the park. Conversations stopped, heads turned, children froze, parents pulled them closer. The bark carried urgency, not threat. Ryan felt surprise rush through him. Max never barked like that in public without command. "Quiet, Max." But Max barked again, louder than before. He pulled hard toward the bench and lowered his body closer to the ground. His breathing was fast, and his focus never left the boy. The dog looked desperate. Ryan felt his heart beat faster. Something was wrong. He could feel it now. A cold feeling crawled up his spine. He looked again at the boy more carefully. The boy had not reacted to the barking. His body stayed still. His eyes did not move. He did not look afraid. He did not even turn his head. Ryan started walking toward him. People nearby stepped back, unsure of what was happening. Ryan raised his hand to calm them and spoke clearly. "Please stay back. Everything is under control." He reached the bench and stopped a short distance away. Max continued barking, then suddenly stopped and began whining softly. His ears lowered and his eyes looked wide. Ryan knelt down to be at the boy's level. "Hey kid, are you okay?" No response. The boy's face looked pale. His lips were dry. His chest moved very slowly. Ryan leaned closer and watched carefully. The movement was barely there. Ryan reached out and gently touched the boy's shoulder. The skin was warm, but the body felt weak. The boy did not react. Ryan swallowed hard and checked the neck for a pulse. His fingers pressed lightly, searching for signs of life. There was a pulse, but it was faint and uneven. Ryan felt fear rise sharply inside him. He grabbed his radio and spoke loudly, calling for medical help. His voice stayed firm, but his hands began to shake slightly. "Call an ambulance now." Child unresponsive at the park. Max let out a soft cry and lowered his head close to the boy's arm. He nudged it gently with his nose as if asking him to wake up. Ryan placed his hand near the boy's mouth, checking his breath. The air was shallow and weak. The boy's eyes stayed open but empty, staring at nothing. Ryan looked around quickly, hoping to see a parent running toward them. No one stepped forward. Faces in the crowd looked confused and afraid. Some whispered, some covered their mouths. Ryan focused back on the boy. "Stay with me, kid, help is coming." Max stood suddenly and barked once more, then sat down close beside the boy. His body trembled slightly. His instincts were screaming something Ryan had not understood soon enough. Ryan looked at the boy's chest again. The movement slowed even more. Then it stopped. Ryan felt the world drop out from under him. His training took over instantly. He carefully laid the boy flat on the ground and prepared to help, his mind racing with one painful thought. The moment the boy stopped breathing, the world around Officer Ryan seemed to fade. The noise of the park, the movement of people, and even the sound of his own breath disappeared. His body reacted before his thoughts could catch up. Years of training pushed his fear aside and forced his hands to move. Ryan gently lowered the boy fully onto the grass. He placed one hand on the boy's forehead and tilted his head slightly to open the airway. He leaned close and listened. There was no sound, no breath, no movement. Ryan felt a heavy pressure in his chest, but he pushed it down. Max stayed close, whining softly. His nose hovered near the boy's face, and his eyes were wide with fear. The dog's tail stayed still, like he was afraid to move. Ryan placed his hands on the center of the boy's chest and began pressing down with steady rhythm. His movements were careful, but fast. He counted silently in his head, focusing on the task in front of him. His uniform grew damp with sweat as people nearby watched in silence. A woman in the crowd covered her mouth. Another man stepped forward, but froze, not knowing what to do. Ryan looked up quickly. "You call for help," he said firmly, pointing to the man. "You tell them exactly where we are." The man nodded and ran off, shouting into his phone. Ryan continued helping the boy. His arms began to ache, but he did not slow down. His eyes stayed locked on the child's face, searching for any sign of life, any small change, any movement. Max suddenly stood up and barked sharply, then turned toward the bench where the boy had been sitting. The dog pulled slightly on the leash and looked back at Ryan, barking again. This bark was different. It sounded urgent, but focused, like Max wanted to show something. Ryan glanced toward the bench and noticed a small backpack lying on the ground beside it. He had not seen it before. His instincts told him to trust Max. Now there was no time to question. Ryan paused for only a moment, then reached for the bag and pulled it closer. He opened it quickly. Inside, he found a small container and a folded piece of paper tucked carefully inside. His hands trembled as he unfolded the paper and read the words written unevenly across it. "My son Leo has a heart problem. If he collapses, he needs help fast. He ran away this morning and is scared. Please help him." Ryan felt his chest tighten and his vision blur. For a brief second, he looked at the boy again and whispered the name. "Leo." Max whined softly, as if he understood. The dog pressed his head against Leo's arm, staying close, refusing to leave him. Ryan pushed the pain aside and returned to helping Leo. His movements became even more urgent. His breathing was fast but controlled. He spoke softly to the boy, even though there was no response. "Stay with me, Leo, please stay with me." In the distance, a siren began to sound, faint, but growing louder. Each second felt heavy and slow, like time itself was resisting movement. The crowd stood frozen, watching, hoping, praying silently. Ryan continued without stopping. His arms burned, his hands felt numb, but he did not slow down. He refused to give up. Max lay down beside Leo again, his body tense. His eyes stayed fixed on Leo's face, as if waiting for him to wake up. The dog let out a low sound full of fear and sadness. The siren grew closer. At last, flashing lights appeared at the edge of the park. Relief washed over Ryan, but it was mixed with dread. He did not know if they were too late. The ambulance arrived and medical workers rushed in, carrying equipment. Ryan quickly explained everything, his voice steady but strained. He stepped back only when they told him to give space. The medical team worked quickly, attaching machines and providing care. Their faces were serious, focused, calm, but Ryan noticed the way they exchanged glances, the kind of glance that carried worry. Max sat beside Ryan, now leaning against his leg. His body trembled slightly. Ryan placed a hand on Max's head. Without looking down, his eyes stayed on Leo. Minutes passed that felt like hours. The park was completely silent. Now no one spoke, no one moved. Finally, one of the medical workers slowly stood up. He removed his gloves and shook his head slightly. Ryan felt his heart sink before any words were spoken. The medical worker spoke quietly to Ryan, words that felt heavy and final. Ryan listened, but his mind struggled to accept them. The sounds around him felt distant again, like before. Max lowered his head and lay down on the ground, resting his chin on his paws. He did not bark, he did not move. He seemed to understand. Ryan stood frozen, staring at Leo, the little boy who had been sitting quietly just moments ago, the boy Max had tried so desperately to save. The truth hit Ryan with full force. Max had sensed it early, the danger, the urgency, the silent call for help. Max had tried to warn him again and again. Ryan closed his eyes tightly, feeling guilt and sorrow crash over him like a wave. He wished he had trusted Max sooner, he wished he had acted faster, he wished many things. But time did not listen. And the park that once felt peaceful now held a silence that would never leave him. The park slowly emptied after the ambulance left. Families walked away quietly holding their children close. No one spoke loudly anymore. The swings moved gently in the wind with no one using them. The place that had been full of life now felt heavy and still, like it was holding its breath. Officer Ryan remained near the grass where Leo had been lying. He stood in the same spot for a long time, not moving. Max sat beside him close enough that their shoulders touched. The dog stayed silent, his head lowered, and his ears relaxed, but sad. He did not look around. He did not react to people passing by. His focus stayed on Ryan. Yellow tape was placed around the area. Other officers arrived and spoke softly, asking questions. Ryan answered when needed, but his voice felt distant to his own ears. His mind kept replaying the same moments again and again. Max stopping, Max barking, Max pulling toward the bench. If only he had listened sooner. As the sun began to lower, Ryan finally walked back to his patrol car. Max followed slowly. His steps were heavy, and his tail barely moved. The ride to the station felt long and quiet. The radio stayed off. Ryan did not want to hear any sound. Later that evening, Ryan was asked to go to the hospital to speak with Leo's family. He changed his uniform and cleaned his hands, but the feeling would not leave. His chest felt tight, and his thoughts felt loud. Even in silence, Max waited by the door, watching him closely. At the hospital, Ryan walked down a quiet hallway with Max beside him. The lights were soft, and the air smelled clean but cold. A nurse guided him to a small room and then stepped away. Inside the room sat a woman on a chair near the wall. Her shoulders were slumped, and her hands were clasped tightly together. Her eyes were red and tired. She looked up slowly when Ryan entered. This was Leo's mother, Anna. Ryan stopped a few steps away and spoke gently, introducing himself. His words felt careful, like glass. He explained everything from the moment he arrived at the park to the moment help came. He told her about Max and how the dog reacted. He told her how Leo sat quietly and how brave he was. Anna listened without interrupting. Tears rolled down her face, but she did not wipe them away. When Ryan finished, the room stayed silent for a long moment. Then Anna stood up slowly and walked toward Max. The dog lifted his head and looked at her. His eyes were soft and unsure. He did not move away. Anna knelt down in front of Max and wrapped her arms around his neck. She pressed her face into his fur and cried quietly. Her shoulders shook, but she stayed there holding him. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for trying to save my boy." Max stayed still. He did not pull away. He simply leaned into her like he understood everything. Ryan felt tears fill his eyes. He turned his head slightly, trying to stay strong, but the weight of the day pressed down on him. He had seen many hard things in his job, but this felt different. This felt personal. Anna stood up and faced Ryan. Her voice was soft but steady. "You did not ignore him," she said. "You tried, and Max tried. That matters." Ryan nodded slowly, though the guilt still burned inside him. He wished he could believe her fully. That night Ryan returned home with Max. The house felt quiet and empty. Max did not go to his usual spot. Instead, he lay near Ryan's chair, staying close. Ryan sat awake, staring at nothing. His thoughts refused to slow down. Every sound made him tense. Every moment of silence felt too loud. Max lifted his head whenever Ryan moved, as if making sure he was still there. Days passed, but the feeling did not fade. Ryan took time away from work. He walked with Max every morning through quiet streets. Max stayed close, always alert but gentle. Ryan spent a lot of time thinking. He thought about trust, about listening, about how some warnings do not come with words. Max had seen what Ryan could not, and had tried in every way to say it. One afternoon Ryan returned to the park alone with Max. The tape was gone. The grass had been cleaned. The bench still stood near the swings, just like before. Ryan stood there for a long time. Max sat beside him, looking around quietly. Children played again, laughter slowly returning to the space. Life was moving forward, even though his heart felt stuck. Ryan knelt down and placed his hand on Max's head. "You knew," he said softly, "you knew before I did." Max looked up at him and placed a paw on Ryan's knee. His eyes were calm and honest. In that moment Ryan understood something clearly. He could not change what happened, but he could change how he listened. He could choose to trust the silent signals, the urgency, the instincts that spoke without words. The loss of one small boy had left a deep mark on his heart, but it had also taught him something he would carry forever. From that day on, Ryan promised himself one thing. He would never ignore a desperate bark again. Time moved forward, even though the memory stayed sharp inside Officer Ryan. Each morning he woke up with the same thought, and each night he fell asleep with the same image in his mind. Leo sitting quietly on the bench, Max barking desperately. The world did not pause, but something inside Ryan had changed forever. Ryan returned to duty weeks later. His uniform felt heavier, and his steps felt slower, but his focus was stronger. Max walked beside him, as always alert, calm, and steady. Ryan watched Max more closely now, noticing every small movement, every change in posture, every sound. He no longer questioned, he listened. During patrols, Max began to react to small things: a man pacing nervously near a store, a woman sitting alone looking unwell, a car stopped too long on the roadside. Each time Ryan responded immediately, and each time the situation mattered. People were helped before things grew worse. Ryan learned that danger and need often arrived quietly. Word began to spread among other officers about Ryan and Max. They noticed how Ryan trusted his partner without hesitation, how he moved fast when Max reacted. Some asked him why he changed. Ryan never gave a long answer. He simply said, "I listen now." One afternoon, Ryan received a message asking him to come to the park. There was a small gathering planned, and he was invited. Ryan already knew what it was about. His heart felt tight, but he agreed. When he arrived, the park looked bright and peaceful. The swings moved gently in the breeze, and children played nearby. Families stood together near the bench where Leo once sat. A small crowd waited quietly. A new bench stood there, now made of clean wood, with a small metal plaque. Ryan stood back with Max beside him watching. Anna stood near the bench holding a photo of Leo. She spoke softly to the group. Her voice was calm, but full of emotion. She talked about her son, about how he loved the park and the swings and the open sky. She talked about kindness and about listening when something feels wrong. Then she looked toward Ryan and Max. She thanked Max for trying to warn everyone. She thanked Ryan for trying. She said Leo was not alone in his last moments, and that mattered more than words. Ryan felt his chest tighten. Max sat very still, his ears relaxed, his eyes focused on Anna like he understood every word. After the short ceremony, people slowly walked away. Some stopped to speak with Ryan, offering quiet words of support. Children placed small flowers near the bench. Max sniffed them gently and sat down beside it. Later, when the park grew quiet again, Ryan stood alone with Max. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the grass. Ryan rested his hand on Max's head. "You tried," he whispered. "You did everything you could." Max lifted his head and leaned into Ryan's leg. His tail moved slowly. From that day forward, Ryan and Max became even stronger as a team. Ryan trusted Max completely, and Max responded with loyalty and focus. Their bond grew deeper, built on understanding rather than commands. Months passed and life continued. Ryan saved people. Max found danger before it showed itself, and each time Ryan acted without hesitation, remembering one quiet boy and one desperate bark. One evening after a long shift, Ryan sat on his porch with Max lying at his feet. The sky was dark and peaceful. Ryan looked down at his partner and smiled softly. "You changed me," he said. "You taught me to hear what others miss." Max lifted his head and looked at Ryan, his eyes calm and steady. He placed his head back down, resting close. Some lessons come too late to change the past, but they can shape the future. Ryan knew that now. He carried the memory of Leo not as guilt alone, but as a reminder to listen, to trust, and to act. Because sometimes the most important warning does not come with words, it comes with urgency, fear, and a bark that refuses to be ignored. And Ryan would never forget that truth again.